Hello everyone, and welcome to my latest in my series of Road Rash videos. This is Road Rash 3D on the Sony PlayStation. Straight away you can see the visuals have gone under a massive overhaul. This, at this point, was without doubt the best looking Road Rash game that there had ever been. As much of an improvement visually and audio wise that Road Rash 32-bit had been over the 16-bit Mega Drive Road Rashes, this was equally as massive an improvement over Road Rash 32-bit. And this was really what Road Rash 32-bit should have been. This showcased the abilities of the 32-bit machines far more than Road Rash 32-bit did. It's kind of ironic. Sort of what is also additionally ironic as well is the fact that it's named Road Rash 3D. If this was released today and called Road Rash 3D, you'd expect it to have the sort of modern day definition of 3D, which is you sitting there wearing the glasses and seeing everything leaping off the screen at you. Whereas what it kind of meant on the PlayStation was it was like a proper 3D game. I mean, the bike's in 3D, the other riders are in 3D. You know, it's not sort of 2D sprites, as it were, in a sort of fake-o 3D world. And consequently, this had a very profound effect on how the game played. The game played so much more differently than it did on the 32-bit Road Rash and on the 16-bit. The 32-bit Road Rash played very similar, the bike handled very similar, and although there was sort of certain issues with regards to what I described as the game being dumbed down a little bit, that was pretty much the case. This had a completely different feel to it. The bikes were a lot more weightier, there was more momentum. What I mean by that is, you know, the direction change of the bikes wasn't as instant as it was with the other Road Rash games. There was a degree of momentum, and although, I mean, there was sort of very much what I'd call arcade elements. You know, you can still swing off the road and hit things and not come flying off the bike. That was actually, in this case, a very good thing, because of the fact that the bike wasn't as nimble in terms of its responsiveness. That would have made the game far too frustrating. So from the design perspective, I could totally understand that, but this game didn't feel dumbed down at all. It was a lot more difficult to win races, even on the earlier difficulty settings. The other riders, you know, didn't just disappear behind you, and you know, they stuck close by you. There was a lot more combat focus in this game. The world was a lot bigger, the racing world was a lot bigger and wider. It wasn't as obvious. You know, you have new ways of coming off your bike, like you could see there. You know, the back wheel starts to slide around. There was a risk of like high siding coming straight off the bike, and that was something that was new to the series as well. I mean, you could slide off the bike before, but you know, it paled into insignificance when you go and end up high siding. And yeah, as you can see, like the graphics now, the polygons, they're not sprites, they're actual polygons, and that is the, you know, the sort of definition of it being in 3D. You would think that this would therefore be my, you know, up there with my favourite in the series, but there were a few issues with this as well. I think because it was such a dramatic departure from the original look and feel of the Road Rash games, far more so than the 32-bit Road Rash, it took a lot more getting used to for me. I totally love the game, I think it's fantastic, but I think when you play it with the other Road Rash games, it's kind of hard to describe. This feels more like a beat 'em up with motorbikes, is probably the best way I can describe it. You know, certainly a lot of the mechanics sort of deviated a bit away from the racing element. it was a lot more. I mean, with the other Road Rash games, this is probably the best way of putting it. With the other Road Rash games, you could avoid the combat, and that was always beneficial. You could avoid the combat, and it would make life a lot easier for you in terms of finishing the race. In Road Rash 3D, it was a lot more difficult avoiding the combat, because you'd overtake somebody and you would be using the tactic that you'd used in the previous Road Rash games, but then what would happen, as you can see there, they'd sort of pull up alongside you and start hitting you. So it made combat in a lot of cases unavoidable. I mean, like you can see here, you know, you just end up being ganged up on, and it can make it really frustrating. In addition, the default controls as well made riding the bike and combat a little bit difficult. You could adjust the controls, thankfully, to make it more like, you know, using the shoulder buttons for combat, and you know, so you didn't have to keep taking your hand off the accelerator buttons and what have you. But that was the main thing I disliked about the game, was, to my mind, I wanted to race, and that was what I wanted to do. But at times I felt like I was being railroaded into combat when I didn't particularly want to. But that said, it is still a terrific game, and you know, it was the first time Road Rash took a quantum leap forward in the series. And so yeah, that's pretty much it. That's Road Rash 3D on the Sony PlayStation. It's a great addition to the series. It's by no means perfect, but I really enjoy it. I think it's great. So thank you for watching this video, and stay tuned for one more to come this week. Thank you for watching.